Thank you, everybody, and good afternoon. This is a continuation of the zoning board hearing for a 40B affordable housing development project in Lakeville. Before I begin, I want to reiterate the governor's statement, which is pursuant to the governor's March 12th, 2020 executive order, all public body members may now participate in a meeting remotely, which is what we're doing. Meetings do not have to be conducted in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provision to ensure public access to the deliberations of the meeting through adequate alternate means of public access, which we're doing by holding this virtual meeting. This meeting will be aired in real time on the Facebook page of LakeCAM at www.facebook.com/LakeCAM. That's LakeCAM. And before we go any further, I also want to ask if anybody is making a recording of this meeting aside from LakeCAM and on Facebook. Hearing none, I think we can proceed. So we left these deliberations some weeks back. I think we had considered many issues and resolved a number of questions about this project. One item did come up, which I'm hoping that Mike and the petitioner can address, which is the perk test that I think I'm sure has been resolved or will be resolved if there's even an issue with it. But beyond that, I think the task today is to review the draft of the waivers and the issues in the comprehensive permit that we hope to approve. Mike, I'll turn it over to you and the petitioner and the engineer to address the perk test, please.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Bob, you want to respond to that?
I'd be happy to. So we had a couple of things happen the last couple of days. Yesterday, June, so that would have been June 3rd. Our company went out to the site with a backhoe and did a couple of perk tests out there, and that's because we had done a dozen or so previously, and this was way back at the start of the project. And it turns out that a couple of the units changed in location, so we had to go out and do a couple more. So that yesterday there was a couple of perk tests being done out on the site. The other thing I just wanted to quickly address is while Mr. Turner was out on the site yesterday, he got approached by an abutter, and they had a question about the traffic study and the timeline on it. They were concerned that the traffic counts of the vehicles on the existing traffic counts were done during the shutdown period. And I just clearly states in the traffic study that the traffic counts were done on March 10th and March 11th, and the shutdown of all the non-essential businesses happened on March 24th. So just wanted to reassure that abutter that those traffic counts were done well 2 weeks in advance of the shutdown. In fact, the schools all got shut down on the 25th of March. So that's pretty much it.
And do you have any preliminary results from the perk test?
The soil on site is excellent. It's basically sand, and all the perk tests were positive. They were all successful perk tests.
Good, thank you.
No problem.
We had a couple of minor plan changes from when we last met, Mr. Chairman, and I think it might make sense for Bob just to go over them really quickly. Sure. It addresses some of the issues that came up last time we had met.
Absolutely. Very quickly, I can go over those. Mr. Lanny had, in his review, had mentioned that we should include a couple of recommendations from the traffic study. So we did that. And on the cover sheet, we had 3 recommendations that we added. On the site plan, we had a stop sign and a stop line at the access driveway that we added to the plans. And then in discussions at the last meeting with this board, Mr. Maxey and Mr. Turner had agreed to put a fence in on the property line between those 2 properties. And we show that fence on the line. So very minor changes, but we wanted to address those and get those over to Mr. Lanny just for him to quote unquote sign off on. And I believe he did that. I believe he answered via email to say that those corrections have been made.
He did, yes, I got that email. So I'm going to ask board members if there are any other questions or issues that you feel we should address at this point. John, Jim, Janice?
No, I'm good.
Jim, do you think there's anything that we should be asking?
No, I'm also good.
Good. Janice?
No, I'm good.
Is this the right time then for Amy and Mike to bring up the draft of the waivers and the issues that need to go in the comprehensive permit?
Yes, so the way that the decision is set up is that the board will start voting on all of the waivers, and the waivers have to be voted on separately. And
Okay.
so if the board has no issues and has no questions, I really don't think that we need to necessarily go through the procedural history and the background, because you guys are very, very familiar with this project. So I would recommend that we start with the waivers, and it would be helpful if, it would be helpful if you had one person consistently make the motion and one person consistently second the motion, for my purposes. If not, I am keeping track, so it's okay, but if that's possible. So, because you guys have a lot of voting to do.
Okay.
So if you guys go to, if you have the draft decision, you would go to page 5. And Mr. Chairman, it's up to you. Would it be easier if I read the waiver and the motion, and then it would just have to be seconded, and it would have to be moved and then seconded and then voted?
Amy, before you go any further, this is your document that ends in draft decision -2?
Yes.
Okay.
It was sent yesterday to Kathy. Yeah, yesterday. I can't remember the time, midday sometime.
Yes, and Kathy sent it out to us. So we are scanning down to
Page 5.
page 5, midway through, it says waivers.
Yep, correct.
Okay. Let's start at the top then. Section 4.1. Does it, let me, before I go ahead with this, does everybody have a copy up on the screen?
Yes.
John, you have yours?
I have mine.
Jim?
Yes.
Janice?
Yes.
Okay, and Dave can't speak. All right. So the first one is a vote is needed on the waiver, which says on June 4th, 2020, the board on a motion made by such and such, seconded by such and such, to approve a waiver from section 4.1.1 to allow multifamily dwellings on the residential zoning, in a residential zoning district. Who would care to make a motion to accept that waiver, to approve that?
Dawn, this is John. I'll just keep saying so moved to the motions, because I think that's what you prefer, correct, counsel? That way you don't have
Correct.
to wonder who's. So
Thank
John Oliveri will be the one making.
Thank you.
And who will be seconding, please?
I can second.
Is that
Thank you,
Janice?
Janice.
Okay. So we've had a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this one, the rest of them say approve, deny. This one says approved because if you guys deny this waiver, the project's over. So
So
there's
on a
not
mo-
much latitude.
Right, a motion made by John and seconded by Janice to waive the requirement that these be single-family dwellings on this property. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote, please. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. I think it's probably cleaner since we're on Zoom.
Under the governor's order on virtual meetings, every vote has to be a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Do you want to have, I mean, Dawn, do you want to call out names, which may be quicker, only because I've been doing this a
John,
lot.
how do you vote?
Most of people jumping in and out, so.
John, how do you vote?
John Oliveri, aye.
Janice Swanson, aye.
Janice is aye. Jim?
Aye.
Jim votes aye, and Don Foster votes yes in favor. So we have 4, and Dave abstains. So we have 4 out of 5. The second one is on section 5.0 to allow more than one principal structure to be constructed on a lot. We need to vote to either approve or deny a waiver from section 5 to allow more than one principal structure to be constructed on a lot.
John, I move to approve.
John moves to approve.
I second it.
And Janice seconds. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none. John, how do you vote?
John Oliveri, aye.
Janice?
Swanson, aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Don votes aye. Dave abstains, so 4 out of 5 vote in favor. Vote.
So Mr. Chairman, if I may, I feel the need to protect Dave. He is not abstaining. He is not participating. So because of his alleged or potential conflict, he's not even participating in this hearing.
Got it. Fine.
So
4 out of 4.
so it would be a 4-0 vote.
4-0.
Yep.
Moving along. Section 5.1, waiver from the minimum dimensional requirements for lot area frontage, lot width, front, side, and rear setbacks, and green area. And if folks will look at the document you have on your screen, there is a table that shows the required and the provided.
Oliveri, motion to approve.
John has made a motion to approve.
Janice Swanson to approve. Aye.
Janice seconds the motion. Is there, well, we need to make the motion to approve and
I'll second it.
that's it. So John has made the motion. Janice has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? I do note with interest, but not with objection, that the lot coverage goes from 25 to 36%. Hearing no further discussion, I'll ask for a vote, please. John?
Oliveri, aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Don votes aye. That's 4-0 to approve this motion. Moving along. 5.1.2 front yard circle, waive the front yard circle requirement. We are asked to waive as not necessary. It says a waiver from 5.1.2 is not necessary. I'm not sure I understand that, Amy.
That was in the old decision, and Mr. Shaughnessy left it. I'm not sure if he meant to.
Yeah,
I was confused.
that we don't need that waiver. So
Let's withdraw this motion then.
So you want to deny the waiver because it was requested. This happens often when you go through processes and plans change, but because they requested it, it has to be denied.
Oliveri, motion to deny.
John makes a motion to deny this request, this motion.
Janice seconds it.
And Janice seconds the motion. Any further discussion? Thank you for the discussion, Amy. John, how do you vote?
Oliveri, aye.
Janice, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Don votes yes to deny this motion. So the vote is 4-0. Moving along, section 6.7 and all of the subsections. waive the site plan review requirement by planning board. The request is a waiver from section 6.7 site plan review by planning board pursuant to general laws, chapter 40B, paragraph 21, or section 21. The Lakeville Zoning Board of Appeals has the power to issue permits to approvals as any local board official who would otherwise act with respect to such application.
Oliveri, motion to approve.
John is making a motion to approve the waiver. Janice?
Second.
Janice has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. John, how do you vote?
Oliveri, aye.
Janice, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim, how do you vote? Is Jim with us?
Jim is with you. Hold on a minute. Aye.
Jim votes aye and Don votes aye, so the vote is 4-0 to approve the waiver from section 617. Okay, continuing, Town of Lakeville General Bylaws, curb cut. The vote to approve or deny a waiver from the requirement that a curb cut permit be obtained from the Board of Selectmen pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 40B, Section 21 of the Lakeville Zoning Appeals has the power to issue permits or approvals as any local board or official who would otherwise act with respect to such application. This is a motion to approve approve a waiver from the need for a curb cut. So we're asking to approve a waiver. John, will you make a motion to approve this request for waiver?
So moved.
Janice, will you second the motion?
I second it.
Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All in favor, please. John, how do you vote?
Oliveri, aye.
Janice?
Aye.
Jim? Is Jim with us? I think we've lost Jim. So in Jim's absence, I will vote aye. Amy, that makes 3 votes in
Yep.
favor. Is that enough?
That's enough.
So the motion carries with a vote of 3-0 because we appear to have lost one member. Moving along, this is a vote on outdoor lighting. This is a motion made to approve a waiver from the requirement of outdoor lighting bylaw. John, will you make a motion to approve or deny this request for waiver, please?
Motion to approve.
Janice, can you
Second.
second the motion? Jim, are you with us? Apparently not. The motion's been made by John and seconded by Janice to approve. John, you say you were approving?
Yes, sir.
Approve a waiver from the requirement of the outdoor lighting bylaw. I would like to learn more about that.
Mr. Chairman, all the lighting that we are providing on the site is the down lighting. I'm not terribly concerned about meeting that part of the bylaw. My main concern is about having to go file with the planning board again. If it was something that you wanted to approve in part or deny in part, I'd be comfortable with that. But we are providing the dark sky lighting.
I'm comfortable with that, and I think I'm going to ask my board members if they also are comfortable with Mike's explanation.
I'm comfortable. I mean, obviously, it's on record that they're going to be using the down lighting, so.
Okay, we have a motion made, seconded, and illuminated by Mike. Is there any other discussion? If not, I'd like a vote, please. John?
Oliveri, aye.
Janice?
Aye.
I vote aye. Has Jim rejoined us?
Jim is rejoined.
Did you hear this motion in the discussion?
Yes, aye.
Jim votes in favor, so that's 4 in favor and none opposed. Thank you. Amy, do we have more to consider here?
So, Mr. Chairman, what I normally do is I just quickly go through the decision with the board, just explaining what each section contains. You know, in the beginning, we had the procedural history, we had the general overview of the project.
Did we lose?
We've lost our feed.
We've lost Amy.
And then when this is when the building permits can be issued, how they're issued, you know, what has to happen before they are issued. And then with regard to the construction plans, you know, what kind of construction plans have to be submitted. We then get into housing, which is the affordable housing section, which essentially, you know, mimics the law, saying that, you know, you have to have a certain amount of affordable housing. You have to have some deed restrictions, things like that. This also lays out when they have to actually record these things, when they have to submit these things to the board or to the town. It, again, like I said, limits their profits because of that's under the statute. We then get into detailed construction about, for example, pre-construction conferences, what has to happen prior to construction. There's a section on blasting, whether that is going to be done or not, but there's a section on blasting. And then we get into the infrastructure, meaning the roadway. Normally on this, I will say that normally on this I suggest a bond that for the roadway. However, Mr. O'Shaughnessy is instead proposing to withhold the certificate of occupancy to the last two marketable market rate units. And considering the size of this project, I don't have an objection to that. But I just wanted to point that out to the board.
That seems like a fair approach.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all. And then there's, you know, the fact that this is a private drive, so therefore, you know, from now and forever, they have to do the snow plowing, they have to do landscaping, all that kind of stuff. And then there's some stormwater management standard conditions, and that's it.
I think Mike has a question, Don.
Mike?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I've looked over the draft that Amy had sent over yesterday, and there's only a couple. There's one real component that I have a question on, and I do want to address what she just brought up with respect to withholding the last two certificates of occupancy, because I think it's a good point, and I guess that's maybe a good point to start off, and I'll work backwards. What we'd also like to add in there, and it's not in this decision, is in the event that we're not finished and the applicant desires to post a bond instead of withholding the COs, we will do that. And of course, the board would rely on its engineer, and the form of the security would have to be approved by town council. Bob Forbes, could you pop up that thing I sent you?
I can try. I'm not sure. Which one did you want, Mike? You sent me two?
This is the last one.
The Rev 1?
Right.
Okay.
It's at the end, Bob.
You see in the document, Mike?
Yeah.
What page, do you know?
19.
19.
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah. So Amy, what I'm suggesting is an alternative in case, for whatever reason, Mr. Turner is unable to finish and wants the COs. He can, you know, come to the board and ask to have a bond put in its place.
So what would not be finished?
Well, you know, if
I mean, it's so small. It doesn't, I mean, it doesn't seem like,
it could be the paving. It could be the paving that's not complete. You could be finishing in the middle of the winter, early next spring, and that's not complete.
and he'd have people move in with no paving?
Well, the top coat maybe.
My only concern is, I don't think it's necessary. And a bond doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get done. The withholding the 2 certificates of occupancy definitely would make sure it got done. It's up to the board.
I would recommend that if we go that route, that we stipulate that the 2 dwellings that are being held up be market rate dwellings.
They are.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it says. But what he's proposing is that instead of the market rate units being held, he will provide a bond.
Don, it's John.
John, go ahead.
I'm comfortable, especially with the fact that it's going to be the town's engineers that will come up with the bonding amount. You know, if it doesn't get finished, to Amy's point, the surety company is going to be the one who ends up paying for it to get finished. It's not necessarily going to be, I mean, there could be a little back and forth, but at that point, at least we'll have the surety company to get funds from.
I truthfully don't have a feeling one way or the other on this. I'd like to see us do whatever moves the project ahead most quickly. But I do think that we have to have something in place that assures that they finish the project. Anybody, John, do you have a suggestion of?
I mean, I guess my comment was based towards I'm comfortable with putting the language in that allows them to replace at a juncture, again, to council's, Mr. Turner's counsel's point, if there is some holdup where they can't do something in the winter time, or for whatever reason they haven't finished up the window dressing, we'll call it,
Right.
that they can't get those last 2 COs. And again, where it's going to be the town's engineers, we can be as conservative as we need to be on the amount. So, you know, if they don't like the amount, then they don't get the CO. So we still kind of have them in a position, you know, we're still in control at that point.
So we need words that say that the ransom would be either 2 certificates or a bond of an agreed upon amount.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point I would rely on Amy. If we were to go forward with that, is she comfortable with the language Mike put in, or would she tweak it at all?
I haven't seen Mr. O'Shaughnessy's language, so I don't know why it wouldn't be, I don't know why it would be hard to agree. I think it's fine. I mean, it's going to be standard language regarding a surety, whatever the surety, we choose the surety, we choose the amount. So we could do a cash bond, we could do anything.
Right.
Okay.
Amy, is this something that
Hey, sorry.
we have a new member?
Sorry, I'm sorry. Hey,
Or we could just sit the dog after him.
yeah. He's not smart enough, trust me.
Is this something that can be negotiated after the comprehensive permit is approved, or do we need to?
Oh, sure. So this is just simply language that you would be approving the concept, and I would just draft the language. It's nothing that has to be formalized right now, just as long as the intent of the board is satisfied.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. The other, there's two other spots that we had issues with, not issues, but I think we need some discussion with. Paragraph 4 on page 13, it talks about the town regulatory agreement. I have a couple of comments on it. This is the first time I've come into this type of requirement on any 40B project. I understand why it's being asked for. I don't believe this board has ever included it in any of its decisions. And to the substance of it, I get it, but my concern is in the first paragraph where it's tied to the issuance of any building permits. You know, the burden would be on us to get it to you. And my concern is I guess we get into another situation like we're currently in, where there's a pandemic and the document just sits there. The other question, I guess this is for Amy, is this agreement between the board and the developer? Is my understanding correct?
Sorry. Yes, it is.
So again, Mr. Chairman, if we could tie it to the issuance of an occupancy permit or the first occupancy permit, that may give us enough time to get it into you for council to review it, for it to get signed up, and still allow for Paul to get working.
I don't have a problem with that. The last one that was submitted to us was, I think it was 2 pages.
Okay.
And if it's something that's simple, that's great, and we'll do it. If we could just disconnect it, then I'm good with this paragraph.
So it's going to change to prior to the issuance of any occupancy permit.
And then the only other comment I have, and this is a result of myself and Mr. Turner having some follow-up conversations. On page 17 at the top of the page, we have hours, and on Saturday I had listed 8 to 6, 8 a.m. to 6. In talking with Mr. Turner, we were hoping we could change that to 7 to 7. The noise bylaw in the town of Lakeville allows it from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if that would be the only other change, and that didn't make it into the draft that I had sent Amy. But other than that, I think that is the only other issue that we have with the draft of the decision.
You know, we've grappled for years, many instances, we've grappled with this issue of noise. And it seems like the best approach that we could take is to simply say that all work must comply with the noise bylaw, or work hours must comply with the town's noise bylaw, which means that we're not making up the rules. We're asking you to observe the existing rules.
I'd be comfortable with that.
I wonder if John, Janice, Jim might have.
I agree. I've said that on numerous occasions. I don't know why we would restrict a project to less working hours than we would for someone else who is pulling a building permit. So as long as we're in line with what the regular regs are, I'm good with it.
I agree.
I think I'm good with the rest of the decision, Mr. Chairman.
I don't see it.
And while we're waiting, I'm going to ask Jose if he's listening to us. I think he is. If we've had anybody post any questions or issues on Facebook that you've seen.
We have not, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
Browns. I don't have,
Thank you, Jose.
oh, they're Board of Health. So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, you do not have a noise bylaw. You have Lakeville Board of Health regulations for noise control. Is that what we're talking about, maybe?
Yes.
Okay,
I don't know what
so,
it's called. I know that Bob, that Nate refers to it often.
It is hard for the Board of Health to enforce that because we don't have any measures for that. You might want to consider noise complaint. It's hard for the Board of Health to address it.
So, so as you know, as this is a comprehensive permit and the zoning board steps into the shoes of every other board in town to grant a comprehensive permit. I think that we could have, I think that we could say that exterior construction other than emergency work or finishing cement shall follow or, shall abide by the Town of Lakeville noise regulations to be enforced by the building commissioner.
Perfect.
He'll be thrilled.
I was just going to say, Nate, I'll get a call from Nate in 2 seconds. He's going to be mad at me. Okay, so Town of Lakeville.
Nate doesn't get mad at anybody.
No, he doesn't. You're right.
Fault.
Noise regulations to be enforced. Okay. And then we'll leave in that. So what about hours of operation shall be enforced by the police department? That might, Mr. O'Shaughnessy, that might have been from the sample document, maybe? Or did
Yeah,
you-
I think it was. I think it was.
Okay. So would it make sense to just take out all of this stuff about, for this condition, construction activity shall include but not be limited to, startup of equipment and machinery, removal of trees, grubbing, clearing, because all of that is part of noise. So we don't even have to list all that stuff if you guys are comfortable with taking the whole thing out.
Makes sense.
Okay.
What's next, Amy?
So if you guys could turn to, if you turn to page 22, there is a sample vote. If you have no other questions or concerns with the draft, we have a sample vote where it would simply be a motion to approve the comprehensive permit for at 44 to 46 Rhode Island Road for 16 3-bedroom dwelling units in 8 duplex style buildings. 12 dwelling units are approved as market rate units, while 4 dwelling units are restricted as affordable units.
So moved.
Okay.
I second it.
John has moved.
I second it.
Janice has seconded. Is there any further discussion? This is a vote to approve the comprehensive permit. Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. John, how do you vote?
Oliveri, aye.
Janice, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Don votes in favor. So that's 4 in favor and none opposed.
So, Mr. Chairman, I will make all the changes. I'll fill in all the blanks, with regard to who voted and who, all of that. I'll make all the changes and then I will get it to you. So if I could just get, the board to have one last vote, which is on June 4th, 2020, the board voted to authorize the chairman, Donald Foster, to sign this decision on behalf of the board.
So moved.
John has made a motion to approve.
I second it.
Janice is a seconding. Any
Yes.
further discussion? Hearing none. John, how do you vote?
Aye.
Janice, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I'm not sure I can vote, but if I can, I vote in favor. That's 4 in favor, not opposed.
Mr.
We've
Chairman,
done this many times before on a lot of things where I get to sign for the board.
It looks like Mike has something to say.
Mr. Chairman, there's a requirement in the permit that the board sign the Mylar so that we can record them at the registry of deeds. I don't know if it's required that maybe it might be more convenient that if the board authorized you just to sign the plans, that's something just throwing out there. Instead of having all the members sign it, maybe just have you individually sign the plans.
I make
So
the motion.
they can't
Okay.
do that
Okay.
unless they can't do that unless they do a vote on, pursuant to 81, where they designate one person to sign it. And then that designation has to be recorded at the registry of deeds. So unfortunately, they haven't done that. So the registry won't take it without that approval. However, so is the only reason that it has to be signed because there's a condition in the decision,
Right.
Mike?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay, so where is that?
It was on, plans, page 10. The end, page 10, paragraph 11, the second sentence, it talks about a digital copy of the final endorsed plan prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Page 10, what paragraph was that, Mike?
Paragraph 11.
Oh, so just, no, so we'll just take out endorsed.
I'm okay with that. I'm just, if
Yeah.
the board wanted them signed, I was good with that.
So we're gonna
So,
Need to revise.
so I'm okay with that, Mr. Chairman, because in the decision, every single plan was listed and with its title and its date and its last revision date. So there would be no confusion about what plans are the actual project plans. So I don't have a problem with taking out the word endorsed, and then we don't have to worry about all four of you coming to town hall to sign a Mylar.
Do I still need to sign them?
No,
No signatures needed.
not on the plans, no. Or we could say, we could also just say that in 11, instead of endorsed, to say signed by the chair, something like that, but I'm not sure it's necessary.
I'm okay not doing it.
I don't think if we don't need to sign them, I think it's better and quicker for everybody.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, as you know, Mr. Turner's itching to get working out there. He's had actually a discussion with Nate about this. And he's hoping to start some tree removal early next week. Or maybe it's sooner than that. I forget the date. But I just wanted to let the board know in case they get any phone calls. Obviously, he's doing all this at his risk, but in fairness of letting the board know, if the board had an issue with that, I would counsel Paul just to wait, but kind of just throwing it out there. But he's lost a couple of months because of the pandemic stuff, so he's just trying to make up a little bit of time.
Sure. Did we vote to approve the comprehensive permit?
You did.
Okay, so we voted on everything necessary.
Yes.
Do we have any other business to conduct on this petition?
And not from my point of view.
Mike?
No, I'm good, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the board for its time and for working with us on the Zoom process and bringing this application to a conclusion. I really appreciate it. In other towns, I'm out 4 or 5 months on some of my hearings.
I appreciate your patience on this. This has been a trying time for everybody. I have to say, I'm glad everybody's healthy.
As am I. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So
Thank you very much,
before we
everybody.
close, don't we need to have a vote to close the hearing?
Yes.
John, would you make a motion to?
I make a motion to close the hearing.
Janice, would you like to second that?
Yes, I second it.
Any further discussion on the motion to close the hearing? Hearing none. All in favor, please. John, how do you vote?
Oliveri, aye.
Janice, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Don votes aye. So the hearing's closed. Thanks again to everybody. Okay, before we break up, just a reminder that a week from today, again at 4 o'clock, we open a hearing for the marijuana growers. You all will be with us. Janice, will you still be with us?
Yes.
John,
Aye.
I hope you will be. Jim, I hope you will be.
My schedule's clear. I will be there on the 11th or here.
Dave, I don't think you have a conflict, do you? Dave's not listening.
I think Dave.
Dave, will you be with us for the?
I will.
Okay, so looks like we have 5 members at 4 o'clock, and Amy, I'm hoping you have to be with us. Wouldn't know which way to turn on this one.
Yes, I will be there, and I will make sure that Hank the dog is not there.
Oh, we like Hank.
Hank votes.
No.
Hank votes. Do we need our engineer for any purpose? You think?
What I guess I would say no at this point, and maybe if there's any questions, we can continue the hearing and have the engineer look at it. But I mean, it's in the same place they all are. I mean, unless traffic. No, I don't. At this point, I don't think so.
No, it's going to be the same old issues that always come up. It's going to
right.
be smell and rodents and insects and disposal and security.
Exactly, and the CCC regulations are so strict that I think we're protected. So
Okay.
If anything comes up, we could just continue it and send stuff to Nick for a quick review.
It would be wonderful if we could work our way through it on next Thursday, because the following Thursday we have Kathy 4 petitions or 5. We have 4 petitions coming up.
Okay.
So we're gonna be busy.
So would you like me to have a draft decision ready for you on Thursday?
That would be wonderful.
Okay, I will get that done.
Great. Kathy, we have minutes to approve.
Yes.
Is that what you want? I have to confess, I haven't looked at them. Should we take a couple minutes to look?
So, Mr. Chairman, I will see you next week,
Amy,
and I'll have a decision for you.
thanks
a
so
draft.
much.
And Kathy, I will make all the changes to this decision, and I will send it to you and Dawn so it can get signed and filed.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, Amy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The only minutes are the December ones, correct?
Yes.
I have to find them.
I've read the minutes and I'm okay with them.
I'm okay with them.
Well, that's good, because I wasn't at the meeting, so if you two weren't okay with them, we'd have a problem.
I'm not sure I was at the meeting either.
Don, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Dave's made a motion. Janice or Jim, one of you, please second.
Second the motion.
Jim seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Oliveri's going to abstain because he wasn't there.
So looks like we have, what, 4 in favor and 1 abstain? What else do we have? Anything?
Adjournment.
Yeah.
Just a second. I'm looking at Kathy to see if she lights up with anything over here.
I don't think so. I know we talked about maybe having 2 meetings in July, but there's only one other petition right now. So maybe going back to the regular schedule.
The 4 that we have scheduled for the 18th look pretty straightforward to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking we can work through them. One of them I don't even think should be there. I'm not sure why Nate suggested it come to us for approval, but those 4 should be fairly fast. Now, I have to confess, I have no idea how we do a Zoom meeting with 4 petitioners hanging around on a computer screen. Should we try and schedule them at 7:15, 7:30, and 7:45? What do folks think?
Never done.
I think that makes sense. I'm not sure, knowing our history, whether even on Zoom, 7:15, 7:30. I mean, we may need to stretch it out a little bit, or I don't know.
Kathy, do you know if all 4 petitioners are available by computer and by email to do this?
As far as I know, I think I did speak with them all. They are all available. I think some of them are pretty easy. I don't see them going a full 15 minutes. Maybe scheduling 2 for 7 and 2 for 7:15 might make more sense. However, I think they've all been advertised for 7 already.
Let's do them all at 7. You have their email addresses
Mm-hmm.
for all of them?
Yes.
Okay. Let me email them each individually and just say that they're each of them is one of 4 hearings we're going to have all together, one after the other. So they may join a Zoom meeting and sit quietly and watch while we do the first one, then the second, the third, and the final one. If you could send me the email addresses for the 4 petitioners, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Do we have any other?
Don,
Yes,
Don,
Jim.
can I make a comment only because I've done too many Zoom meetings, I think, at this point over the past couple months, and I don't know if Jose's still on or not. But one suggestion maybe, or one, if we have all 4 sign on at the same time, I wouldn't, and I think you can do this with Zoom, I wouldn't rely on them to mute themselves all the time. I think there's some way. Now, it may take a little more attention from either you as the chair or
Jose handles all that beautifully.
yeah. Well, I just want to, because we're going to have background noise. If we have 7, I can guarantee it, we're going to have background noise. So he's got to be able to figure out a way to mute them and not rely on them to mute. I mean, we even had some tonight from just our members in that one petition. So just a comment that I know Zoom has some availability to make sure that we mute them and control when they're on.
I can speak to that, John. Hosts and co-hosts have the ability of muting all. We no longer have the ability of unmuting all, which is a problem. And when we mute somebody, we cannot unmute them. They have to unmute themselves. So what I've been suggesting is everybody turn on their chat. If they have a computer and a large screen, click on chat. And if there's a problem, I can interact with the host or co-host can interact with that person and ask them to, like I did tonight with Jim, to mute and unmute themselves, to unmute themselves when they need to speak, keep themselves muted. But his signal has gotten better. So yeah, we work with that in the background. And if we haven't done a good enough job on assessors, I'm sorry.
No, no, it has nothing to do with assessors. Actually, I'm talking about other forums that I'm using it on too. And I can appreciate now why you always used to come out and move papers away from microphones, because it's incredible how sensitive these things are.
They are very sensitive. And it's still happening now when, like our attorney was moving papers over her
Yep.
laptop, and that's what was causing, and I couldn't mute her. People, not everybody knows where their mic is, and they are in multiple locations on laptops in particular. So you could be swiping a piece of paper over your mic and not know it.
Yeah.
Jim, you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
Me?
Jim?
Yes, I was just going to tell Jose that my Wi-Fi connection is coming. I looked down in the hollow, and that's why I had it hardwired to the modem, because it comes in better. And if it's all right with you that my words are a little bit later than my face moves,
Yeah.
I just assume put it back on the hardwire.
Yes, Jim, do that. And please stay on after the meeting is over. And I'd like to help that to make that work much better for future meetings.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, I
you're
think
welcome.
we're done for the evening. I will see you folks in a week. Thank you very much for your patience with all this.
You need to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.